Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
SGO Oswego, W249BC Mattydale, W261AC Oswego, WTKWHD2 Bridgeport, ESPN Radio. This is the Burdick Ford and Burdick Toyota pregame show.
Backs against the wall for Syracuse men's basketball. A road trip tonight down to the ATL. Syracuse takes on Georgia Tech from McCamish Pavilion down in Atlanta, Georgia. Giovanni Heater with you pregame right here on ESPN Syracuse and CuseSportsTalk.com. Thanks so much for choosing to hang out with us as we get you set and ready for tip-off down in Atlanta between the Orange and the Yellow Jackets. Syracuse off to an 0-1 start in ACC play, and their backs tightly against the wall as this is a team that looks to bolster its resume, build its grouping in hopes for the NCAA tournament, where this is a game that it cannot necessarily catapult you in any form of the metrics, the net rankings, anything like that. It's one that you have to win if you're Syracuse here tonight. In fact, you could argue the next 4 games are must-wins for Syracuse men's basketball, and they need every win that they can get throughout the remainder of the 2025-2026 season if they want to break the 4-year drought. That's 4 years without playing in the big dance and being members of the NCAA tournament when it rolls around at the end of March. Syracuse and Georgia Tech ready to go at it. It's the second ACC game this year for Syracuse. It is the third ACC game for Georgia Tech, a team that is 10-5 on the year, 1-1 in ACC play. It's a quad 3 opportunity for Syracuse on the road here at Georgia Tech. The next quad 1 opportunity is not until the 27th of January on the road at NC State for Syracuse. So again, when you look at the big picture, when you look at the grand scheme of things, tonight, must-win mode, really must-win mode for the next probably 4 games for Syracuse. And I would make an argument, because again, it's important to look big picture, they probably got to win 5 of their next 6 to really feel like they're in a good spot. You look at the upcoming opponents for Syracuse and who they are. It's Georgia Tech here tonight, a quad 3 opportunity on the road. Georgia Tech 147th in the net rankings. On Saturday, they're going to go on the road again. They'll play Pittsburgh up at the Peterson Events Center. That's a quad 2 opportunity on the road for Syracuse. Quad 3 game on Tuesday night. It'll be a week from tonight up in the JMA. Florida State comes to town. They're 114th in the net. That is a quad 3 opportunity at home for the Orange. Quad 3 opportunity on the road in Chestnut Hill against Boston College on the 17th. That is next Saturday. And then a home game, quad 2 opponent, Virginia Tech, 57th in the net ranking. So again, a team that if they get hot, could fluctuate, maybe move to a quad 1. I think that would surprise me a little bit. But right now, a lot of the metrics have Virginia Tech as an NCAA tournament team at 57th in the net. That's a team that's also winning right now without 3 of its starters in the mix. You get them in a couple of weeks when they're probably healthy on the 21st. You get them in the Dome. That's really a hinge type of a game. You win it, and you're probably in a good spot if you're Syracuse, and that's a nice notch in your belt. You lose it, it might not be detrimental. And then really the big one, but before you roll into the quad 1 opportunities, a quad 2 game at home against Miami on the 24th. It's a Saturday, 36th in the net. If Miami wins a couple of games here, you're looking at a team that could swing into the top 30. That would make it a quad 1 game for Syracuse in the JMA 3 Saturdays from now, towards the tail end of January here. So again, the next 6 opponents: Georgia Tech, quad 3, Pittsburgh, quad 2, quad 3 against Florida State, quad 3 against Boston College, quad 2 against Virginia Tech, quad 2 against Miami. you'd really like to win 5 of the 6. Have to beat Georgia Tech, probably have to beat Pittsburgh, have to beat Florida State. It's a quad 3 game. Absolutely cannot lose to Boston College and Chestnut Hill. Can't do it. Not an easy place to play, not much of an atmosphere. Have to get up for that one. Where you have some room for error, either Virginia Tech or Miami, because, again, they're higher in the net, 57th and 36th, might not absolutely kill you. So it all starts tonight for Syracuse. Have to take care of business. Georgia Tech, out of all the opponents coming up, they are the lowest of the net rankings outside of Boston College that Syracuse will play the rest of the year. 147th in the net. Boston College is 190th. Pittsburgh is 3rd at 112 in the net. So this is theoretically on paper the most inferior team Syracuse has left on the schedule, not named Boston College. Have to take care of business tonight. But a lot of the metrics would indicate that we could be seeing a very close game tonight down in Atlanta against Georgia Tech, between Syracuse and Georgia Tech. I don't think Georgia Tech's a pushover. I really don't. I think that this is a Georgia Tech team that, under Damon Stoudemire, third-year head coach of the Yellow Jackets, really plays up and down to the level of competition. And there's a lot of proof in the pudding in that they've gotten really hot at times and played with some of the big boys, and they've gone kind of cold and had some kind of downers against group of 5 opponents that they should beat up on. There's even proof in that pudding this year. It's not even just a last couple of years thing. There's proof in that pudding this year when you look at the fact that on New Year's Eve, they were leading Duke at halftime, played them pretty resiliently all afternoon, got outscored in the second half. Duke pulls away, ends up winning the game by less than 10 points. But they had Duke, number 6 in the country, at Cameron Indoor Stadium. They had Duke on the ropes in the ACC opener on the 31st. You contrast that with the fact that they went to overtime with Maryland Eastern Shore in their season opener. It's like not the same team that showed up. Right now, season opener, I think with a season opener, there's obviously a little bit that goes into that with the fact that it's a season opener, right? But losses to DePaul, Drake, Mississippi State, but then you almost beat number 18 Georgia early on in non-conference play, and you almost beat the Duke Blue Devils at Cameron Indoor Stadium on the 31st, just less than a week ago. So up and down type of a team, but when they're playing at their best, not an easy team to beat by any stretch of the imagination. So this is no gimme. This is far from a gimme if you're Syracuse tonight. I do like how things match up a little bit for the Orange, but it is far from a gimme tonight. It's also a homecoming for 2 Syracuse players. One of them in the starting lineup, Nathan George, spent 2 years under Damon Stoudemire at Georgia Tech. And really, Nathan George was looked at as kind of a protege that developed under the tutelage of Damon Stoudemire. Very under-recruited kind of a guy. Did not have any power conference offers until Stoudemire and Georgia Tech came in late. Decided to kind of gamble on himself, play in Atlanta, play for Georgia Tech, and developed into the league's leading assist man last year in the ACC and a really solid point guard. One of the better point guards in the league, I think, was kind of the outlook on Nathan George, and a big get out of the portal for Syracuse. So I'm curious to see what kind of a reception he gets tonight. Now, Damon Stoudemire, of course, has said, a lot of respect for Nate George, loves him as a kid, appreciates what he did at Georgia Tech, yada, yada, yada. But tonight, you gotta kind of ignore all that, and your job's to beat the opponent in front of you, and that's what they're gonna try and do. But a homecoming for Nathan George. I'm curious how the fans receive it. This is a guy that was one of your best players last year in particular, decided to quite literally take his talents elsewhere. Not just transfer, but transfer within the league. And now he returns to McCamish Pavilion tonight to face Georgia Tech wearing a Syracuse jersey. So I'm fascinated to see how that all plays out. And, of course, Ibrahim Soare as well, a homecoming for him. He's the other Georgia Tech transfer. Spent a year there, spent a year down at Atlanta under Stoudemire, and did not play quite as much as Nathan George. Wasn't as big of a part of the algorithm there as the starting point guard, of course, and the ACC's leading assister in George. But still a homecoming for Soiree, and we'll see how that all shakes out as well. Giovanni Heater with you for the next hour as we get you set and ready for Syracuse and Georgia Tech down in Atlanta. Phone lines are open, by the way. If you want to call in, you want to get in on the action here, talk a little bit of Syracuse basketball and the pregame coverage, we got you. We got you covered. Give us a ring. 315-437-7644 is the number to call. That is for ESPN 44. 315-437-7644 if you want to chime in and chat. And it's time, I think. Let's go to our Ferrone & Son Funeral Home's memorable moment for Syracuse men's basketball. As always, it's today in SU memories. Celebrate your loved ones with the help from Ferrone & Son Funeral Home, or plan ahead for your pre-arrangement today. Visit them at 1500 Park Street in Syracuse or at ferroneandsoninc.com. Well, today in SU history, I don't take you back quite as far as I have so far this year. We've gone back to the good old days quite a bit, and we've talked a whole lot of Johnny Flynn or Michael Carter-Williams, Rick Jackson, Arinze Anuaku, Wesley Johnson, Scoop Jardine, what have you, Andy Routins, all those guys. Not going to take you back quite as far tonight. We're going to take you back to January 6, 2019. A three-point barrage leads the Orange past Notre Dame in the ACC opener. That was on the road in South Bend. A season-high 12 three-pointers, including 6 from Elijah Hughes in 2019, led Syracuse past Notre Dame. That led them off to a 1-0 start in ACC play. 22 points and 10 rebounds out of Elijah Hughes that night. O'Shea Brissett added a double-double with 19 points and 11 rebounds of his own. Hughes scored 15 points for the 7th straight game to that point, and Tyus Battle also had a double-digit performance for Syracuse, had 17 points in the ball game. That was a fun team. It really was. That was a team that did some good stuff, made a run. Elijah Hughes, O'Shea Brissett, Tyus Battle, Frank Howard was on that team. That was a fun team. That was peak. I was a sophomore in high school at that point. That was peak Syracuse basketball watching for me. Let's see. Was that the team that went to the Sweet 16? Somebody in the chat can tell me, I'm sure, if that was a team. It's like they all run together at this point. But was that a team that went to the Sweet 16? My memory says it is. But I could be incorrect on that. So that is our memorable moment, brought to you by Ferrone & Son Funeral Home. Excited for a fun one tonight. Second ACC game. We're really off and running here in ACC play. So this is a big one. This is a big one. A must-win for Syracuse. Looking forward to watching the action. We will have you covered post-game right here on CuseSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse as well. We'll be on the air immediately following the action down in Atlanta. For now, we will take a break. When we come back, we have a full-blown in-depth scouting report on the Yellow Jackets. Everything you need to know on Georgia Tech coming up right after this. You're listening to Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Syracuse.
Catch the Syracuse
chat. How we doing? Was it Phillies? Yeah, I couldn't remember. Because I thought, yeah, that makes sense. So the next year is when they beat Michigan State. That was the year in better. But they did go to the tournament that year. Is that the year they lost to TCU, or did they beat TCU, or they lost to Baylor? Dude, they literally all run together now. Did this team go to the tournament? 2018, 2019, I guess. No, Michigan State came in the year they lost to Duke in the Sweet 16. Following year, they lost to Baylor in round 1. Then Frank missed it. Okay, so this is the team. So this is, yeah, I think 18, 19, because 19, sophomore year of high school for me, that's the year they went to the Sweet 16. That loss to Duke, man, that was brutal. Brutal. I remember that. That was the Grayson Allen team. Well, there were multiple Grayson Allen teams, but... All right, there you go. Said, homie, it's simple. Clearly, it wasn't that simple. See, Bigsby says, how did this really bad team get so close to beating Duke? I don't know that they're that bad. They're not great. They're not great. I'm not going to pretend they're world beaters, but I don't know that they're that bad. Also, I think Duke's, I don't want to say down. I don't know if Duke is as dominant as many are accustomed. I think Boozer's kid is unreal, but I think as a team, I don't think Duke's as good as they were maybe last year. Well, I mean, Syracuse. I mean, I'm not shocked that Syracuse is favored, to be honest with you. They beat them in pretty much every metric. One thing Georgia Tech's pretty good at, though, is they're not gonna. They're really not bad on defense. They're pretty long. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. Promise. Promise. I'm definitely not saying they're good, Bigsby. It's also college basketball. You can get up and play with anybody any given night. The crazy thing is they shot 53% and still lost the game against Duke. They shot really well. You talking about Tim Leonard? I think Tim already went home for the night. He ran out of here pretty quick. Bigsby, let me get back to you on that. I don't know exactly what you already know versus what happened, specifically today. I know we got some guys. Like, do you know about the LSU kid, the running back from LSU?
Burdick Toyota pregame show.
Rocking and rolling pregame here downtown Syracuse. Well, the men's basketball team on the road down in Atlanta. Giovanni Heater with you, taking you right up till tip-off at 7 p.m., getting you set and ready for Syracuse and Georgia Tech from McCamish Pavilion down in the ATL. Phone lines are open if you want to get in on the action. 315-437-7644 is the number to call. As always, that's for ESPN 44. Georgia Tech in Syracuse, ready to go at it. Second ACC game for the Orange after having Saturday off. Well, Georgia Tech is 1-1 in conference play. Coming off the heels of a road win on Saturday against Boston College. Also played at Duke to open up ACC play. And I'll tell you what, Georgia Tech was very competitive against the 6th-ranked team in the country on New Year's Eve to open up conference play. They were leading at halftime, valiant effort in the second half, somehow shot 53% from the floor against the Blue Devils and still lost the game. And it's just one of those go-figure type situations, right? I mean, it just goes to show how good the Blue Devils truly are. Now, I don't know that this is a world-beating Duke team like you saw, kind of a generational team last year with the talent on that squad for Duke, dominant in the ACC, dominant in the ACC tournament, even without one of their better players. Obviously, a handful of draft picks, fell short of the national championship. That was one of those. That was probably John Shire's best roster last year. I think Boozer's unbelievable for Duke this year. I don't know as a team that they're quite as good as you're accustomed to seeing them, but they're the 6th-ranked team in the country. And to play Duke at Cameron Indoor that close is something that's going to kind of jump off the page no matter who you're looking at, right? So this is a team in Georgia Tech that shot 53% at Duke and lost. Then they turn around and shoot 39% against Boston College and win the ball game. Go figure, right? Just goes to show the caliber of competition you're playing against, right? And it's one of those head-scratching type of things when you look at it for Georgia Tech. They come in at 10-5 on the season, like I mentioned, 1-1 in ACC play. When you look at how they match up against each other in a lot of the different rankings, Syracuse 90th in the net, 84th in KenPom, 75th in the Bart Torvik rankings. Georgia Tech is 147th in the net, 117th in the KenPom, and they are 123rd in the Bart Torvik rankings. It's time for our Georgia Tech scouting report, and it's built by IKEA. Everything you need from IKEA is now at Destiny USA. Go check it out and dream the possibilities at your new IKEA Syracuse. So getting into Georgia Tech a little bit here. First and foremost, very much so worth noting that Georgia Tech is going to be without freshman center Mohamed Sila. They call him Mo Sila, sprained ankle. Going to be out of commission tonight. Did not play in the win over Boston College on Saturday either. This is a guy, true freshman, averaging 10.9 points per game, 8 rebounds a game, 1.4 blocks a game in 23.7 minutes. Stoudemire this year likes to go with 2 big men. He's one of them in Mo Sila. They're going to be without him. Again, didn't play on Saturday. And it's going to put a lot more pressure, I think, on Bai Dongo, who's the other big guy, gets in the mix in the painted area. They're going to still prioritize paint touches. You saw him do it against Boston College. You've heard Stoudemire talk about it throughout the week. Andy Demetro was on Orange Nation. He's the voice of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. You heard him talk about it earlier today with Stephen Pauly. The fact that they're going to still try and prioritize paint touches and play inside out, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult without Mo Sila in the mix. So certainly something to be on the lookout for as Mo Sila is out. I think that is the most important place to start when you're talking about Georgia Tech's personnel heading into the ball game tonight. Looking at some of the other guys, Kawase Reeves Jr., stud. He was a freak last year when I saw him play in person in the ACC tournament. 29.9 minutes a game. He's averaging 16 points to lead all scorers for the Yellow Jackets. 4.3 rebounds, 1.5 assists. Averages almost 2 steals a ball game as well. Shoots it pretty well, almost 42% from beyond the arc and 45% from the floor. That's Kawase Reeves Jr., so be on the lookout for him. Wears the number 14 at the forward spot. Georgia native in his own right. Slightly, you don't want to say undersized, but he's 6'7", 205. Super, super athletic, though. More of a 3 for Georgia Tech, so be on the lookout for him. And then personnel-wise, how could you go without talking about Lamar Washington? That is their replacement for Nathan George at the point guard position. Lamar Washington comes in. He's a transfer, second on the team in scoring, leads the team in assists so far this year, averaging 11.3 points per game, averaging over 6 assists a game, 5.2 rebounds on top of it. And this is the guy that they plucked out of the portal to replace Nathan George and engineer this Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket offense. 17 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists against Boston College on Saturday. So he picked up a lot of the slack on a team that had a strugglesome shooting night at 39% from the floor on Saturday. He spent 2 years at Texas Tech before spending last season at Pacific in the WCC and now transfers back up to the Power Conference ranks with Georgia Tech. He's really catching his stride as of late. Washington has double-doubles in 3 of his last 4 games. You look at those double-doubles, you got point assist double-doubles in 2 of them, and actually a point rebound double-double like we mentioned against Boston College, 17 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists in that one. Super physical, kind of a stockier guy at the point guard spot. A little bit of a bruiser. Actually had Pac-12 scholarship offers as a linebacker coming out of high school. During COVID, kind of leaned back out, decided to go to the basketball route in college. But again, that just goes to show that the stockier build. And this is a built guy. This is a little bit of a truck at the point guard spot. Being a Pac-12 linebacker recruit is no joke. No joke. And that's what you're looking at in Lamar Washington. So those are some of the most notable names to be on the lookout for offensively, no question about it, for Georgia Tech. You look down the list at a little bit of what Georgia Tech has done this year. Really up and down. Third year under Damon Stoudemire, like we mentioned. Playing up to the level of competition, this is a team that is 5-7 against ranked opponents under Stoudemire. When you think Georgia Tech, you don't necessarily think winning big games, but they do. They're 5-7 against ranked teams. Overtime win over Maryland Eastern Shore in the opener, though. Took Duke to the brink, like we mentioned on New Year's Eve. Kawasi Reeves was the standout in that game against the Blue Devils last Wednesday. 23 points, went 5-7 from beyond the arc in the ball game. But then they have some head-scratching losses to DePaul, to Drake, Mississippi State, maybe not head-scratching. And at the same time, they almost beat number 18 Georgia, who's really humming right now and came away with a pretty nice win earlier this week. I want to say it was against Auburn, I believe Georgia beat. They were able to fend off Auburn. And then, again, lone power conference win came this Saturday. It was against Boston College. Let's go to the phone lines. I'm hearing that it is our good friend Kyle Marshak who's taking my place here at ESPN Syracuse when I take off. Kyle, is that you, my friend? I'm not hearing. Oh, there we go. You got me, Kyle?
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving on 81 right now, but I figured I'd call in. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, brother? How we doing?
Doing good. Yeah, I figured I'd call in. I'm geared up for this game, right? I think you and I, and especially Paulie is talking about it, like having the positive mindset coming into this game. I want to bring that, but I'll start with this. I will lose my marbles if they come in and they play down to their competition. If Georgia Tech has their usual shooting woes, we know that they're pretty average when it comes to shooting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be pretty upset if we see this team try and chuck up shots and go shot for shot for them, especially considering the Yellow Jackets have pretty good perimeter defense. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you ringing in, my man. That's our guy, Kyle Marshak, driving on 81. He's probably making the trek right over here because we're ready to have Kyle join us here at ESPN Syracuse. And that leads us beautifully into a perfect spot here. Like Kyle mentioned, the perimeter defense for Georgia Tech, that is the strength of this team is their defense. Feels like Georgia Tech, they're starting to turn a corner offensively, both in the raw numbers and the efficiency numbers. But it's the defense that's been standout for the Yellow Jackets. More length than they've had in an Amari Stoudemire-led team so far in his 3 years. This is the longest team that they've had for sure. And you could even go back pre-Amari Stoudemire and look at Josh Pastner's teams and say, yeah, this is a longer wingspan-wise and height-wise. This is a longer team than Georgia Tech's had in a long time. And it's helped them tremendously. It's helped them tremendously on the defensive side of the ball. This is a team that is 5th in the ACC in blocks per game, 4th in the ACC in defensive field goal percentage, 6th in the ACC in rebounding, and 3rd in the ACC in three-point percentage defense. So how about that? Kyle's doing his homework. He knows it. He knows how good they are at stopping shots on the perimeter and not letting teams have success from beyond the arc. And he must be doing his homework because he's absolutely right. This is a team that is 3rd in the conference in three-point percentage defense, up there with some of the best. It's very hard to score from the perimeter against Georgia Tech so far this year. And it's not a small sample size either. Again, they've played one more conference game than Syracuse, and obviously that extends into the non-conference as well. This is January basketball, folks, right? We're not talking about numbers of a sample size of 4 or 5 games here. Now we have an entire non-conference slate, couple of conference games under our belt to weigh into the algorithm. They're a little bit battle-tested, playing against a handful of good teams, Duke, Georgia, I'd say, are their best two quality opponents. Maybe Mississippi State right in there as far as who they played in the non-conference. But Damon Stoudemire and company really good on defense, and it's a lot largely in part due to the length that they have as a team. So we appreciate Kyle ringing in. As always, that about wraps up our scouting report on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Plenty more to get to, though, as we roll on here, getting you set and ready for Syracuse and Georgia Tech down in Atlanta. Can't wait to have Kyle start joining us here. He begins his training quite literally tomorrow. We start training Kyle full go, and Kyle's going to take over on a bunch of these pregame, postgame shows. You're going to get to hear a lot of Kyle Marshak. So appreciate you, buddy. Phone lines are open, 315-437-7644. If you want to get on the action, you're listening to Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Syracuse.
This is our...
That's funny. I totally said Amari Stoudemire. How many times did I say that, Jordan? Because I knew it was Damon, and it's just one of those things. Oh, only two. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Yo, Spatch and the Wheeze. Letting it rip with the Sandman. You know, I'll tell you what. We might have to do that. So Kyle and I think, are going to double up for the Virginia Tech game. Pregame. Virginia Tech pregame. Timmy's going to do post. Maybe we'll have to do that. One last hoorah. Appreciate you, Kyle. You're the man. Any questions, chat? What do we got? It's been way too long. Been way too long. By the way, happy birthday to our boy Jordan. Show doesn't happen without Jordan, so we appreciate him always. I feel like I haven't sat in this seat in like 2 weeks with Christmas and everything. What up, Zach? Night's going well. How are you doing? Happy New Year, Sarah. Tim was talking about it in drive time today. He was saying how dreadful it could be if this team loses, how dreadful postgame could become. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we keep some positive momentum going. Build some positive momentum, I should say. I mean, they are coming off the heels of a loss. Donald is back, though. Tim talked about some good stuff. He had a guest on. What was the guest's name? He had a guest on that was actually pretty unbelievable in his analysis of what Vince Karras is going to bring to the Syracuse football defense. I mean, this was a really smart guy that went pretty in-depth with the defensive scheme and the personnel that you'll expect and literally how the defense runs. I mean, it was just about as in-depth as you can get. Felt like you're talking to a football coach. So that was super huge. So if you're a football fan, highly encourage you going to check that out. We're going to put it out on YouTube. Might already be out on YouTube because Jordan's the man. But if it's not out on YouTube, it will be. And if not, you can obviously find the full show as well. Definitely worth checking out because that was a sweet segment. Let's see. What was the guy's name? Cody Alexander, I think. Let me check. Yeah, Cody Alexander. Yeah, of match something. let's see, of Match Quarters, matchquarters.com. Dude's got 60,000 followers on Twitter, so no joke. So, Cody Alexander. And then Tim talked about some other stuff. Talked some basketball, for sure. He talked to Cody Alexander for a while. Talked football transfer portal.
This is the Burdick Ford and Burdick Toyota pregame show.
We welcome you back in studio here, downtown Syracuse. Giovanni Heater with you, getting you set and ready for Syracuse road matchup with Georgia Tech down in Atlanta from McCamish Pavilion. Phone lines are open if you want to chime in and chat a little bit of Syracuse hoops ahead of the Orange and the Yellow Jackets. 315-437-7644 is the number to call if you want to chime in and talk. And with that, it is time for our Krause Hospital injury report. The best part about this, for the first time since I've been sitting in this chair, I guess after the first 4 games of the season, I can confidently say Donnie Freeman is playing basketball tonight. Played against Clemson, didn't do a thing in the first half, but almost won him the game in the second half, which was promising to see Donnie get on a little bit of a roll, hoping he can carry that momentum into tonight. But I can confidently say Donnie Freeman is playing basketball tonight for the Syracuse Orange. And that is off the Krause Hospital injury report. We don't have to say it any longer. We do have some injuries to tend to, though, nevertheless. First, for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, mentioned it earlier, they're going to be without freshman center Mo Sela. No Mo Sela tonight for Georgia Tech. He did miss the Boston College game on Saturday as well. It was a win for Georgia Tech against BC. They are 1-1 in ACC play, so they've won a game without Mo Sela in the mix. But if you're just tuning in, if you missed earlier in the show, real quick to touch on it, Mo Sela averaging 10.9 points per game, 8 rebounds a game, 1.4 blocks a contest in 23.7 minutes for Damon Stoudemire and the Yellow Jackets. He's out with a sprained ankle. He really is in a situation now where this is going to put more pressure on a guy like Bai Dongo, who's a really talented forward for him. And this is a team that they like to play with 2 bigs. They're still going to prioritize these paint touches. They're going to play inside out, and they're going to have one less guy to do it. So, again, it's a tough break for Georgia Tech. They're going to be without Mo Sela. Syracuse certainly knows what not having one of your big guys is like. They're also going to be without Dylan Thompson. No Dylan Thompson tonight, wears number 32 for Georgia Tech. Not nearly as big of a loss for the Yellow Jackets. Certainly still worth noting, of course. No Dylan Thompson for Georgia Tech. And you look at what he's done so far this season, not much. Appeared in 2 games. Hasn't really played a big hand to the mix, so not a catastrophic loss by any stretch of the imagination. And then questionable tonight, Cole Kiroak is questionable for Georgia Tech. He's a center. Again, you talk about the bigs. He's played in 8 games so far this year. Averages just 1.5 points per game. Again, not a catastrophic loss, but they're just getting thin at the center position is the only problem. He did play against Boston College, and again, because of the absence of Sela, he played 22 minutes, 6 rebounds in the game, went 1 of 2 from the floor, 22 minutes, 2 points in the game. Did have to play 11 minutes against Duke after Sela got hurt. 2 points in the game against the Blue Devils, 1 of 1 from the floor, had a rebound, played 11 minutes. Other than that, though, wasn't playing a ton. Played against Florida A&M, played against Lafayette, Marist, Monmouth, Bryant, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, but he missed a bunch of non-conference games too. He's questionable. They're getting thin. They're getting thin in the middle. So we'll see if Kiroak is able to go for them with no Mo Sela. For Syracuse injury report, no Aaron Womack and no Noah Lobdell. So those 2 guys are on the injury report. Don't play for Syracuse anyhow. So unfortunately, you're not going to see any walk-on sub in because, well, Womack isn't. Noah Lobdell is, and he's banged up, so he is not going to see the floor tonight for Syracuse. That is your Krause Hospital injury report. Say, take me to Krause. Now, though, it is time to get into our keys to the game, and it's brought to you by our friends over at Drivers Village. For the keys to your game, shop at dvtrucks.com. Keys to the game, as always, powered by Drivers Village. I have a handful of keys to the game tonight. I think first and foremost, I'm going to start with looking at Nathan George and say, can he clean up the turnovers a little bit here? That's been a bit of a bug for Nathan George so far this year. I'm curious to see what kind of a scoring type of a night he can have. Don't get me wrong, but can he clean up the turnovers a little bit? He was not a turnover-prone guy in his time at Georgia Tech, and for whatever reason that's been plaguing his game a bit in 2025, 2026, see if he can clean him up on the road playing at his old arena, kind of get back to his old ways a little bit. Remember, he was the leading assister in the Atlantic Coast Conference a year ago. Another key to the game, got to expose the lack of Mo Sela in the painted area. What I mean by that is let's let Donnie Freeman and William Kyle absolutely feast. Let them attack on the offensive side without having Sela in there defensively. And then on the other side, take away any painted area offense with William Kyle, who's a great shot blocker and rim protector, and Donnie Freeman, and even Sadiq White, who's shown spurts of being a solid defender on the inside. So I think without Sela, Syracuse can really expose a lot there. Dongo's going to make things hard. He does have an ability to score, but I'd like to see Syracuse really expose the lack of Mo Sela, the freshman center, with Donnie Freeman and William Kyle in particular. Third key to the game, offensive rebounds. If Syracuse can get some offensive rebounds and convert on those opportunities, they're going to have a good shot to win the game. Likewise, Syracuse can't give up a ton of offensive rebounds and expect to win this game. You look at the Houston game. Houston had, 21 second chance points on 17 offensive rebounds against Syracuse earlier this year. When Syracuse is losing close games, the offensive rebounds and the free throws have been what you could point towards. And the free throws are going to be what the free throws are. I actually think the free throw shooting has gotten a little bit better, which is awesome to see. The free throws are going to be what the free throws are. But if Syracuse can get some offensive rebounds of their own, and most importantly, stop Georgia Tech from doing it, I think they're going to be in a little bit of a good spot. Duke on New Year's Eve against Georgia Tech, they had 21 offensive rebounds and outscored Georgia Tech 15-0 in second chance points. That made up for Georgia Tech shooting 53% from the floor. Again, Georgia Tech went there at Cameron Indoor, shot the lights out at 53%, still lost the ball game. It's because they couldn't get defensive rebounds. Way too many second chance points for the Blue Devils. It allowed Duke to stretch the lead just a little bit. Still won the game by less than 10 points. It was still a close game. But it allowed Duke, after trailing at the half, to kind of regain themselves and end up winning the ball game in half number 2 against Georgia Tech. So the offensive rebounds are going to be huge both ways. And then last key to the game for Syracuse to take down Georgia Tech, must-win game like we talked about. These are two teams in the top 20 in effective field goal percentage defense. So the team that can get out and run, speed this game up a bit, get some baskets in the open floor, I think could really be the difference. Because when these two teams set up on offense and match up offense to defense, these are really two really solid defenses. I mean, top 20 in effective field goal percentage defense is a no-joke stat. They don't let teams score with ease. So whatever team can find an edge getting out and running, just literally steal a couple of extra buckets, I think it really could be the difference maker. And I put an even bigger emphasis on it because I thought Syracuse really struggled against Clemson on New Year's Eve in that regard. I feel like Clemson had a couple of times where they got out and ran and just nobody got back for Syracuse. And actually, I want to say more than a couple of times. I thought a handful of times it plagued Syracuse where Clemson just gets these easy buckets down the floor, kind of catches Syracuse napping in a way, just trying to push the tempo and get a couple of transition buckets. Again, not allowing Syracuse get into their setup defense. So I think those are your biggest keys to the game. What can Nathan George do in limiting the turnovers? All right. Can Syracuse expose the lack of Mo Sila in the paint, freshman center, who's out for the second game in a row for Georgia Tech? Can Syracuse offensive rebound get second chance points tonight like Duke did against Georgia Tech on New Year's Eve? And then can Syracuse get out and run a little bit, get some transition buckets, and not allow Georgia Tech to set up defensively like they want to do? You're looking at two teams in the top 20 in effective field goal percentage defense. I would love to hear what you think Syracuse's keys to the game are. One last chance to call in and let us know your thoughts. 315-437-7644 is the number to call. And if you're in the chat on QSportsTalk.com, leave it in there as well. What are your thoughts on Syracuse's keys to success tonight? Brought to you by Drivers Village as we get you set and ready for the Yellow Jackets and the Orange down in Atlanta. We'll take a short break, wrap up our pregame coverage when we return right here on QSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse.
This is Orange Nation.
National.
What are you guys bantering about? I'm catching up in the chat. What's up, Jen? I did get the quarter zip memo. Yeah, it's tough, Zach. I hope so that we can get some free throws going. 3-pointers are going to be tough because Georgia Tech third in the ACC in 3-point field goal defense. So they don't allow you to shoot very much from beyond the arc. So we'll see. We'll see. I have to give a shout out to Jordan. He's a rock star because the internet was crashing pretty heavily while Tim's show was going on, and I just pretty much couldn't do the job and cut the clips and get everything the promo, everything that we always do. And now Jordan basically has to do my work for me, and that's not cool. And I feel bad about it. So shout out to Jordan, and I appreciate you, Jordan, and you're the man. And I owe you one. I owe you one big time. I owe you a beer. That's what I owe you. I owe you a beer. I hope they don't go down to the level of competition to San Diego Cuse. Cuse Sports Nord. Jordan is a babe, I agree. Paulie did not travel to Atlanta. He did Orange Nation earlier today. Oh, thanks, Jordan. What's up, Theo Cuse? Yeah, my next gig, I'm going to be the voice of women's basketball and do a bunch of other play-by-play stuff down at Texas A&M. And then a bunch of like graphic design, social media, content creation as well. So a bunch of play-by-play. I'm also going to do a bunch of like SEC Network, ESPN games down there for women's basketball and softball and just pretty much all the sports. So a little bit of everything, a lot of on-air stuff, and then a little bit of behind the scenes because I love doing graphic design and things like that. Like I do the game day graphics and stuff here. So, yeah, a little bit of everything. Gonna miss you guys, though, big time. This has been real nice. I mean, I grew up loving SU, so this is very full circle. Yeah, me and E-Rob. I'll be here till the end of January, though. Last game's going to be the 21st against Virginia Tech.
Radio.
97.7 FM, Syracuse.
And 100.1 FM Oswego. This is the Burdick Ford and Burdick Toyota pregame show.
We're just about 9 minutes away from tip-off down in Atlanta. Syracuse and Georgia Tech, second ACC game of the 2026 conference slate for Syracuse men's basketball, and it is must-win mode for the Orange. Giovanni Heater with you right here on CuseSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse. Last chance to ring in and talk about the ball game if you want to chat pregame. 315-437-7644. The number, as always, to call. We'll talk to you post-game as well right here on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Syracuse. Pretty much immediately following the action, we'll hop right on. We'll take your calls. We'll dive into the action, and I sure do hope. With everything I got, I hope we're talking about a Syracuse win as they face Georgia Tech down in the ATL, because it is absolutely must-win time if you are Syracuse. Can't mess around anymore. Really could have used that Clemson win in the Dome on New Year's Eve. Didn't have it. Got the off day on Saturday. Back in action on a Tuesday. And I'm saying it now. I think Syracuse has to win 5 of the next 6. I think they have to win 5 of the next 6 because of who is in front of them. Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, Florida State, Boston College, Virginia Tech, and Miami. Got to win 5 of those 6. Virginia Tech and Miami are by far the best out of that bunch. Virginia Tech 57th in the net. Miami 36th in the net. Beautiful thing about it, you get both of them in the JMA Dome. Both of them at home. Have to win 5 of the next 6, in my opinion, for Syracuse to get back into this NCAA tournament conversation, because then you get your gauntlet. Quad 1 against NC State. Quad 2 against Notre Dame. Quad 1 against Carolina. Quad 1 against Virginia. Quad 2 against Cal. Boom. Hit them with 5 straight Quad 1 games here in the second week of February all the way to the first week in March. You got SMU, Duke, Carolina again, Wake, Louisville, in your face. So this is where you have to make your money. You can't win the conference and punch a ticket to the tournament in January, but you can lose it all. It can all go away. And I do think that that's true. I think Syracuse, because of what they did in the non-con, have to take care of business in the games you're supposed to win, and then got to win a couple of those quad oneers that you probably shouldn't win, and you're not going to be favored in, and it's not going to be easy, but you got to steal a couple of upsets. That's what you're looking at. If you're Syracuse, that is what is in front of this team right now. Opportunity to do it here tonight. Let's get into our Upstate Imports starting lineups for both of these teams down in Atlanta. Akai Fleming will start at point guard for Georgia Tech. Lamar Washington in there as well in the backcourt. Bai Dongo will start at the 3, while Kawasi Reeves Jr., the team's leading scorer at 16 points per game, will start the 4. Peyton Marshall gets the start at the 5 with the absence of Mo Sela. The freshman center is out with a sprained ankle. Missed last game in the win over Boston College. Got injured in the slim loss to the Duke Blue Devils on New Year's Eve. One more time through, it's Fleming, Washington, Dongo, Reeves, and Marshall for Georgia Tech. On the other side for Syracuse, breaking news, Donnie Freeman back in the starting lineup for the Orange. Remember, he did not start against Clemson. They started the freshman Sadiq White. Now Donnie Freeman back in the starting rotation for Syracuse. It goes Nate George running the point guard, J.J. Starling playing the 2, Nate Kings at the 3, Donnie Freeman the 4, William Kyle the 3rd, rounding out the order for Syracuse at the 5. So again, it's George making his return back to McCamish Pavilion, the former 2-year Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket. It's J.J. Starling, the Syracuse native. It's Nate George. It is Donnie Freeman and it's William Kyle the third for Syracuse. That is your Upstate Imports starting lineups. It's also time for Bringing the Meat, brought to you by Hoffman Sausage Company, who's going to play well tonight. Hoffman Sausage Company has called Syracuse home since 1879. They have more than just hot dogs like German Franks and Snappies. They have amazing sausages to take us through the cold months. Jalapeno cheddar, Italian, beer bratwurst, so much more. Who's bringing the meat tonight? Give me Donnie Freeman and William Kyle. They're missing their key centerpiece in the painted area, who's averaging 10.9 points per game, leading the team in rebounds. There's a lot missing there in the middle. It's going to put a ton of pressure on Dongo to score offensively in the painted area. I think Syracuse got to expose that, and I think Syracuse is going to do that using William Kyle and, of course, Donnie Freeman. Those are your two best, probably, interior scorers, in my opinion. Definitely Donnie and William Kyle. Not necessarily going to do it one-on-one, take you to the tin type of a guy, but certainly a guy that's going to feed off of everybody else and get his opportunities, and he's going to be crucial defensively. I think he's one of the better defensive players in the league. Definitely one of the best shot blockers and rim protectors in the ACC. So give me those two guys to bring the meat tonight, Donnie Freeman and William Kyle. Points in the paint could be huge for Syracuse, and defense in the paint is going to be huge for Syracuse as well. That's brought to you by Hoffman Sausage Company. Final predictions time, Syracuse and Georgia Tech. Look, both these teams really good defensively, honestly. Neither one of these teams let you shoot a lot. Neither one of these teams let you bang down a bunch of threes. Georgia Tech third in the ACC in opposing field goal, 3-point percentage. Top 2, both of these teams are, top 20, both of these teams in field goal percentage efficiency defense. Not going to let you score a lot. I think you're going to see that on full display. I'm going to get it a low-scoring affair. Give me Syracuse to edge this one out. 68-62 final score. A 6-point win on the road down in Atlanta for the Orange, but a lower-scoring affair. Syracuse wins at 68-62. Must-win mode for Red Autry and the Orange to keep their NCAA tournament hopes alive. We're going to be saying a whole lot of that really the rest of the way. That's the situation they're in. That's kind of the hole that this team has dug itself, but plenty of basketball left to be played. Can make up ground with a lot of quad one opportunities in front of this team. They're going to play a whole lot of quad one games as it sits right now. 8 quad one opportunities remaining. Could certainly turn into more if teams like Miami, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Cal keep it going. Without, though, chopping down any of the big dogs like Duke, like Virginia, like North Carolina, Louisville, those teams that you want to stay up in the net rankings and stay as quad one opportunities. So it's a fine line you're walking, but you're looking at 8 quad one opportunities remaining as the schedule currently sits right now for Syracuse. That'll wrap things up pregame. All right, we'll have you covered postgame right here on CuseSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse. Phone lines will be open. Can't wait to talk about it all with you. For now, though, turn that radio dial over to TK99. Listen to Matt Park and Coach Sadlin on the call. Then join us right back here on 97.7, 100.1 FM right here in Syracuse. Thanks so much to Jordan, our producer, running the buttons behind the scenes, and we'll talk to you post-game on CuseSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse.
This